Hey everyone, it's Robert A. and thanks for joining us again on M.I.A. Support Group Live tonight on our every Wednesday at 7:30. So we appreciate you all being here. I see you all rolling in now. Thanks for joining us. This is Robert A. Douglas and Pastor Jax, the co-facilitators of this group, which is aimed towards supporting people that log on really across the country at this point, but eventually across the world to gain some support right where you are in your homes or in your tough situations to be able to hear some new ideas and new strategies to overcome.
So, guys, don't forget this is not a opportunity for you to miss out on any appointments that you may have with physicians. So, if you do need clinical help or if you are in need of seeking a clinician, please make sure you seek your primary care physician. If they are unavailable and it is a dire need, please go to your local emergency room. If you need suicide help, the suicide prevention hotline will be located at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you, Clarence. Yeah. Man, we haven't talked all week. So actually, how's your week been? While we wait for some people to come in.
It's been good, man. I've been able to really kind of hone in on a lot of the things that I've been working on. And so work has been slamming me, bruh. Like, I haven't been doing a lot of work over the past couple of weeks, but
Mhm.
now that summer school has started, and it started on this past Monday, I've been like swamped. So,
What are you
how
doing
was your
in summer school?
say again?
What are you doing in summer school?
So we're because obviously we teach in an institution, we're making sure. Say again.
I think
Oh,
we're having
we're
some
making
feedback. Go ahead. I think because you don't have your earbuds in, we're getting feedback.
sure that the students are able to log on. So that's been a challenge this week, making sure they're able to log on. So on Monday, we had a few students log on, but come Tuesday, we had a lot of issues. And so that's been a challenge for us as well. But it's been rewarding to see the kids, and we're learning how to use another software to teach through. So that's been a kind of a challenge for me. And I have some homework due tonight that I've yet to finish and some other things. So pray for me, Doc.
Yeah, man, you got it. You got it. Yeah, I've had it.
What you been up to? How was your trip though?
Oh, to LA. That was good, man.
Yeah.
Um, it was good, man. I'm sorry. It was good, man. I had a good trip to LA. I got some good, much needed rest. I got to sit on the beach, which I've been dying to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I got some important deals and things put on. I've got some things in place that to make some necessary moves that we talked about. So, Tia is here. Tia Sawyer said, "Hello, everyone. Hi, Tia. I'm not sure if you've
What's
ever
up
been
there?
here before, but we welcome you. Thank you for joining us on live today. So
Happy to have you here.
the topic for today is compassion fatigue. Clarence, we were talking about this a little bit before we came on live.
Yeah.
Chanel's here. She said hello. Hey, Chanel.
What's
Um,
up, Chanel?
and so the idea of compassion fatigue is like when you've been through so much in your life, traumatically, that you lose compassion for yourself, and subsequently you lose compassion for other people. So like a perfect
Yeah.
example for me, I remember vividly in my life when my mom died. Like I got punished for crying about it. Um, I was not allowed to be upset about my mother dying.
Yeah.
It's
You
just
put.
like
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No.
I wasn't in that moment. In essence, I wasn't allowed the access to give myself some compassion to say, "Hey, you just suffered a great loss,"
Right.
because all of
I've
the
heard
adults
that.
were arguing the logistics, right? They didn't give me room to feel, and that happened with my uncle. That happened a lot in a lot of time instances in my life, and so I know I struggle with compassion fatigue in terms of
Right.
um, being able to see someone who may be. I'm sorry, I'm really hot. Being able to see someone, these lights, go through something like death or struggle. It's something that's been so familiar to me, and I've been so fatigued in that area of compassion. I don't always do the best at supporting and giving that, um, sense of compassion. And I think it's a very important and necessary piece for mental health just to have compassion for yourself, you know,
Right.
aside from what you could give someone else, just to be able to have some compassion for yourself when you're going through what you're going through is really important. Stephanie's here. She said, keep going. Tiffany said, hello,
What's
everyone.
up,
Hey,
Scott?
Tiffany. Thanks for being here. So yeah, what do you have you had any experience with compassion fatigue, Clarence, or is it something new to you?
It is a very new concept, but as
I'm gonna get some
you
paper towels.
go,
I can still hear you.
you got to go do what?
I'm getting paper towel right here, but I can still hear
Boy, I'm about to cook you.
you. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Oh, all right, cool. But yeah, no, it's a new concept for me, to be honest. I feel like I'm talking to myself, although you're here, so I'm waiting for you to come back and you
Right
take
here.
as much time as you need.
It's a new concept to you, so you haven't experienced it much. Like you haven't.
No, 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 no. I don't know if I don't know if I've experienced it. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I had never heard of the terminology,
Got you.
and
Got you.
so I could very well have experienced it and not know I had. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can recognize that in a lot of your students, though, that compassion fatigue for how they deal with each other. Um, you know,
Right,
that lack of compassion because of that, inability to have compassion for yourself is really hard to give
right.
compassion to someone else. Jeanette's here. She said, "Hey, family." Amber's here. She said, "Hi, everyone." And Stephanie said, "Hey."
What's up, Amber?
Everyone in the chat and everyone here, share if you've had any experience with compassion fatigue or you deal with someone who does. So there's a lot of people who just can't seem to give that compassion. I know it's been a struggle of mine, Clarence, forever. When I tell you forever, I
Yeah,
mean,
I feel like I've always been a quite compassionate person.
mhm.
So
So
I
what
don't
this,
know.
so
I
what this is
try
good
I try to
then.
extend grace
So
too.
what does compassion look like? Um, what does compassion look like?
Well, to me, it's extending grace. It's being able to recognize that. Whoa, this is about to convict me. Being able to recognize that someone may not have grown in a certain area or may not be as clear. So, like for example, when you were saying that the persons were saying, "Oh, stop grieving your mother's death, get over it."
Mhm.
Some people has never really dealt with grief and or has never been through a traumatic experience. There are some people who are 3 and 4 and 5 times our age who still have their parents.
Right. Exactly.
Both of them. You and I have the unfortunate privilege of knowing what it's like to live without
Mhm.
one or both parents. And so, for us, it's like, man, mommy really gone.
Right.
And that was hard for me to get over. So I don't know, and I know that if I can be honest, there were people who were really close to me who pretty much told me to shut up about it.
Mm.
And it was their job to help me through it,
Right, exactly,
if I can say it
exactly.
that way. And people are like, well, how do you mean that it's their job? When you're committed to a person in such a way, when you go through, they go through.
Hmm.
And if they're not, in my opinion, empathetic with you or compassionate with you, and you're going through, as opposed to just saying, "Go away, grow up, get over it,"
Hmm.
you're like, when you see these tears falling, I don't want you to catch them, but I mean, at least you can
Right. You know,
try to help me.
Jesus, Jesus didn't have to carry his own cross. For that very
At
reason.
least,
For that very reason.
you know what I mean?
And so
It's
I think you're
like,
right. I think you're absolutely right. So you have experienced that fatigue. Then maybe you haven't experienced it to the degree where you treat others without compassion, but it sounds like you
right.
definitely starved yourself with it. Excuse me. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And again, I think it was just a matter of nomenclature. I didn't know the term.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amber's in the comments. Amber said, I don't know if it's compassion fatigue, but I tend not to feel sorry for people who make a lot of excuses for why they can't accomplish things, etc.
Uh huh.
That is that is a good form of compassion fatigue. Simply because you may have
Mhm.
heard, a lot of stories, a lot of, wolf tickets
Mhm.
sold, and as a result of that, you're less apt to, feel that, and that again, we're not doctors, we're not clinicians. This is all opinion based. To me, that can sometimes be a little more protective than harmful. I don't know, because I've been labeled as toxic before in my life. So, I don't want to give
Yeah.
toxic information. But I think it may be discretion with compassion that may be the tie up here, as opposed to compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is like a blanketed thing. It doesn't matter, who, if the person's grandmother died or the person that lost his job 20 times and can't pay his rent. If they are treated the same with that same level of compassion, that may be fatigue. But you may just be, being discretionary. What do you think, Clarence?
I think it could be a little bit of both.
Okay.
In that instance, I think it's a both and not a either or. Um, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we learned something new about Jeanette tonight. We learned that she had, or at least she had a job before, because she said, I'm just joking, Jeanette. What's up? She said, I worked as a grief counselor, and just by nature of that title, people think you're open to listen to slash solve all of their problems. I've learned to let people know, look, I can't do this today. I've also learned to ask people before I vent to them. Can I talk to you? Can I vent? Instead of assuming that people are able to receive my issues. That's interesting.
Mhm.
You want to talk on that, Clarence?
Um,
I can, if not,
yeah, because
want to keep answering
no, I was just gonna say I like how she listed ways to combat.
strategies. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think that as we work through this talk group, I think that's what we have to remember. Like everybody handles things differently, and when we deal with our issues in our own way, the recovery time might be a little less. If
right.
you take my advice, it might take you a little longer because that wasn't the route you were supposed to take.
Yeah. So Jeanette, being a grief counselor, I'm sure you've seen so many people who may deal with compassion fatigue. They may just be so grieved out, if you will, that they can't really see what they do to other people as harmful. And that's another expression, Clarence, of how that compassion fatigue can manifest. In that you kind of treat people um, with a lack of compassion as opposed to receiving them with a lack of compassion. It can kind of go either way. Um,
Yeah,
so let us know, Jeanette, your experience with that. Amber said she agreed with Jeanette. Like, if you keep having excuses, I'm going to start believing them. Oh, she agreed with what I said. Tia Sawyer said, Tia Tia Sawyer said, I tend to be really hard
y'all
on
see
myself.
now. Hold on,
I,
Tia. Now y'all see, I'm letting it
I saw
ride.
your face.
Last
That's why I
week,
laughed.
Doctor Stephanie told me. Dr. Stephanie told me I went in. She said that other stuff. She said, "Oh, you going in?" And
Mm-hmm.
I had to realize that if the doctor
Air came
says
on
it,
now.
then it's got to be true.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you slide. Now you got one more slide.
You sure? Because you got the time up here. Anyway, Tia,
Oh, I'm done.
she said, I tend to be really hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist, so I tend to hold people to the same standard. Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't know how to answer that. I'm gonna type that in the comment myself. That was for me. Um,
Not when you like the comment though. When you
yeah, I
like
gotta
it.
I gotta figure out a way to like that comment and repost it or something. Put it up there again. I tend to be really hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist, so I tend to hold people to the same standard. Um, yeah, we.
That's so unfair though. And the only reason I say that is this. You really end up hurting you more than anything when you do that. Because here's the thing, and here's how
When you
I
do
had to
what?
rationalize that. Huh?
When you do
Here's how
what?
I had to rationalize it. Start the clock. Here's how I had to rationalize it. All right, let me know.
It's on.
All right, because I wanted to reclaim my time. Here's how I had to rationalize it. I had to rationalize it that let's say I tell my children to do something. Now Chase and Cole are 5 and 6.
Hmm.
Let's say I tell them to do something that is more sophisticated in my mind, or that is not as sophisticated in my mind, but for their fine motor skills or for their mind, it is a little more sophisticated. And so when I give them that instruction or that directive, They may do what I said, sure, but they did not do it the way I thought they should have done it. And so when I go in the kitchen, for example, I'll say, go make you some cereal. But when I go in the kitchen, there are cereal pellets all over the place. They made the cereal, but they didn't do it the way I would have wanted them to. And so when it comes to holding people to the same standard that I hold myself, had I made the cereal, of course I know that I would have done it in the right way, right? But because I gave those that directive to somebody who may not be as keen, let me
15
put it
seconds.
that way, as keen as I am, the directive or the product may have fallen out in a bad way. And so I just say to her that try not to do that with people, because just because they're the same age don't mean they're the same
Time.
caliber.
All right, and to that, I would say that you should be a better teacher because you should lay out explicit instruction as to how they should deliver that cereal the way you would want it to be delivered. That's not a standard. That is a lack of instruction. You need to reflect. You need to look at your lesson plan and say, what did I teach them about making cereal? That's the disconnect, and then they're gonna make it the way you want to make it. But
No, don't, because you know that don't make good sense.
no,
Let me jump in
I
real
know.
quick. It does make good sense when you're talking to a cadre of people who can understand what you're saying. But imagine giving, again, a 5 and a 6-year-old complex instructions for a complex task. I'm not saying this from, exposure to children. I'm saying this from experience with children. And so when I say that, what I'm saying is, yeah, of course, I could have said, do this, and this. But children, not just mine, children can kind of be a little bit forgetful, as I like to say,
Mm.
in the process of getting what they want from you. And so the same with grown-ups. When you try to get them to grow up, it's kind of hard, because what if they're not ready to move to that next level? And so just let them do.
We
I hope I'm
disagree.
not.
Hated it. Um,
That's
Tiffany said. Tiffany said there are times when I think I am numb to what others go through due to the nature of the severe traumatic experience faced. It's not that I don't want to sympathize. It's not that I don't. Oh, she said it's not. It's just that sympathizing brings me back to the reality of what went through, and it grieves me all over again. Tiffany, thank you for sharing that first and foremost, and just to bring us back to the topic. Um, I think that's exactly what compassion fatigue is that numbing because that compassion muscle just can't fire anymore right now. You ever worked a muscle group out so hard that it was just every time you tried to straighten your arm out, it just was so excruciating that you just decided to walk around like this. Clarence, you ever been like that? Have you ever worked out before?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So your compassion muscle, if you will be could be like that, and severe traumatic experience will do that to you. That's exactly what it'll do. But it's about if you can recognize this and if you can accept this within yourself, which it seems like you are able to articulate that. Now is the time to try to start getting that muscle to fire again. First for you, and giving that compassion for you, allowing you. I remember you shared. On a live losing two major people in your life at one time, and allowing yourself to feel what that feels like is just compassion for yourself. It doesn't mean be depressed. It doesn't mean sulking your emotion. It doesn't mean allow your emotions to control anything about your day, other than giving
Right,
time to sit with them, taking 30 minutes out of your day to say, I have to sit with these thoughts. And it takes a little less weight off of it each time, from my experience. It takes a little less weight off of it. And then I'm still learning how to extend compassion toward others. And I'm just being honest. Like, I don't ever want to be on this platform and pretend that, these topics are something that we've mastered or, we have all the answers for. It is really tough for me to show compassion to people a lot of times, simply because of just why we're here. And so, I challenge you like I challenge myself to be able to reconnect with that muscle, and really and the way I do that just to give practical examples is like I may miss a few deadlines in my day, in my to do list. If I have a to do list of 5 and I get done 3, I will really be hard on myself about the 2. Like the 3 kind of didn't even happen in my head. It's like, we're really focusing on what you did not do. And compassion is being able to take that step back and to say you got a 60 today, you at least passed. Like you don't have to be happy with your grade, right? But you got 60% of your day done. Um, and that doesn't give an excuse for tomorrow, but it gives a little grace and compassion. And so I just challenge you to try to practice that too, and challenge me. Call me on it to see how I'm doing on that as well. But thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Clarence, you want to share anything?
No, I just want to get through these comments, man. I know we got to get them.
Cool. So here go one for you. Jeanette said, and this you can relate to this. Fortunately, I worked in an organization that was big on training and preventing fatigue of all sorts. We had a lot of trainings and opportunities to decompress. We had a meditation room and mental health days. But that's awesome. People don't do that in the workplace. But Clarence, what do you think about that?
Wow.
That the incorporation that
Um.
like they had mental
Well, I
health
think it's
days,
great.
the meditation room.
I think it's great. I think that a lot of companies and large corporations are starting to incorporate that in their work.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is like with at DCPS, we now do what's called restorative circles or restorative justice, and so and we tag that by calling it social emotional learning. And then when we have issues with our colleagues, we then too do restorative circles and those kinds of things, which is kind of rudimentary if you ask me. But I can see how it works, and so I encourage it. And then, as you know, just with our benefits package, we get those mental health days, and so I encourage it. I mean, when I was working out in LA, they had a policy where if your dog makes you comfortable, bring your dog to work with you. So
Yeah, that's yeah. What I mean, I was just sitting here thinking as you were talking, like, what if police department, like precincts, had meditation rooms, or had that could be something that would be a game changer. You should look into that. Uh,
yeah.
Tiffany says, sympathizing brings me back to the grief and pain I face, and that is where the numbness comes in. Sorry, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense because you haven't given that compassion, in my opinion. Again, we're not professionals. This is just a
Mhm.
support group, but Tiffany, I know you personally, but I just wanted to make that, I'll put that out there. Is in my opinion because you haven't applied that compassion to yourself first and to your own healing and to your own process. So anytime you want to sympathize with someone else that's going through something similar that you've been through that you haven't healed for yourself, it's going to fire some triggers and start to stir some things up, and then that's when that numbing, like I don't want to deal with that, comes in. So I just challenge you to really sit with yourself and sit with that grief and really see where you are in it, because there's 7 stages of grief. You might want to look that up as excuse me as well, to be able to identify like where you may be personally in those stages, to be able to extend yourself that compassion to get through tough time. Clarence.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was reading as we were preparing to discuss this topic was you have to be willing to take it easy on yourself. Give yourself and especially in this instance more credit than you probably normally would. Give yourself some credit, like the fact that you're still doing some of the things or you're still moving along is enough to say, I'm doing all right. So give yourself some credit.
So somebody, oh, not somebody, Amber said something that I hate for anybody to say in this group, but she said it, so we got to read it. She said, "I agree with Clarence. Even if you give explicit instruction, no two people will complete an activity the same way. I had this experience just today." Well, Amber, thanks for your comment. And
First, giving honor to God, who is the Lord and Savior of my life. I just want to thank all of the Ambers out there who finally sat with me. So
She also said, "What have I done to address my compassion fatigue?" Um, really, I've worked a lot on. I've worked more on showing compassion to other people than I have to myself right now. And the way I've done that is just taking a few breaths before I respond. Sometimes, just to be able to package it in a way that it can be received with love in the way I intend it. So I try to be intentional with the way I deliver messages to other people. Um,
hmm
well, today I had some compassion on myself because I usually wake up. I have a certain morning routine. I missed a piece of my morning routine that is vital to my day, and I usually just tell myself you just have to go without it. But I made time to do it today, and I even had to do it with my daughter with me. But I had to I had to get it done. So to me, that's showing a little bit of compassion for myself because I'm usually that's something I'm going to leave for later to judge myself about not doing. So that's one way I practice compassion fatigue today. But ask me next week, and
Um,
I have about four different ways. How about you, Clarence?
Here's one of the ways that I practice compassion fatigue probably today and almost every day is I get enough sleep now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people can't do that because, they're getting back to work and or you have been working this entire time. But make yourself get some sleep. So, for example, if it's a Saturday and that's the only day you feel like you can go to Walmart and you got to get there at a certain time, nah, you can Walmart can wait or whatever that means. Like Rob said that early this week he left out some mediocre tasks, and so I would do that. One of the other things that I read as persons were talking about compassion fatigue was to eat properly. I know a lot of people think it's really expensive to eat properly. It's really not. It's more expensive to eat unhealthy than it is in many instances to eat properly. And so what I do in the morning is I'll load up on fruits and I'll eat one little piece of chicken or whatever to give me protein. And I'll just keep watering all day.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me energy too. So those are the things I would recommend.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Tiffany laid on some heavy stuff with us. She said, "I am also raising my 5-year-old niece who has experienced severe trauma before she came to me. So I am learning how to give her the love and compassion she needs when remembering things that happened to her. I'm also getting her the professional help she needs." Uh, you
Oh man,
so Tiffany.
first I want to say I'm sorry to hear whatever the circumstances that resulted in this whole situation. I'm hoping for the best. But yeah, Tiffany, I can only imagine. And when you bring in another person who really can't express what they're feeling or really can't express what they're going through, that makes it even more challenging. So you got to kind of decode messages and why she having nightmares and that kind of thing. So I tip my hat to you,
Yeah,
and I know what you're dealing with, and keep tuning in.
yeah, Tiffany. I'm really gonna challenge you on this because I love you and I care about you. Um, you got to be able to give her what you give yourself first. And I'm not saying you aren't. I'm saying make sure that you are. Make sure that you're taking that time to give yourself that compassion and deal with it because she's your niece. So the same traumas that she's dealing with, you're dealing with, just in a different, very different way, of course. And this being, something that's on your life suddenly can be something that can be daunting. But I really want you to really practice that muscle on you, and then and because she's gonna like Clarence said, he said something very important. Like that baby is gonna process the way and you got to decode messages and be able to give certain compassion. Where as I might not give to my kids, right? It has to be a different type of love, and so that's going to take away some things for you, and that's going to take away some time from you, and you can't be judgmental of yourself. I just don't want you to be too hard on yourself as you adjust to supporting somebody in such a traumatic state. um, So yeah, I think make sure she gets the professional help, and if you ever feel like you need it because that's a tough situation,
Yeah,
make sure that you get that. Um,
seek that help. Yeah,
yeah,
please do. And
A-
we have resources. Like if you hit us
yeah,
up on social media or whatever, and just want to know like who do we talk to, what are the like, I'll tell you where to go. Like I won't just say, oh, do that. I will tell you precisely where to go and who I spoke with and who I let my child speak with. You know,
mhm.
when yeah. So yeah,
Ashley said, not sure if it's compassion fatigue, but working with kids who have experienced a lot of trauma causes its own type of fatigue.
yes,
When you're trying to solve
yes,
all their problems that go beyond traditional teaching, I spent the beginning of my career trying to do that, and now I may be more detached than I really want to be, or I actually want to be. Um,
right.
Teaching fatigue is just it's an all encompassing type. You can throw compassion in there, you can throw a lot of things in that bag of fatigue, especially teaching kids in inner city. But I think it's interesting to mention that because that is, I guess, a form of compassion, fatigue, because you get to a place where you've seen 8 years of kids, through coming through foster homes or homeless. Like I remember by the time I was ahead of the school class, like when I saw homeless kids, it was like that's kind of a thing, you know. Um, it wasn't really like when I was in my first year teaching, like, oh man, this kid's homeless, like, you know what I mean. It
Yeah,
just hit
yeah.
different because I've seen it so many times.
So much. Yeah,
How
yeah.
so
And you're
many
so
people
used to it.
manipulated it, and then some people really needed it, and it just caused a type of fatigue. That's right answer. That's interesting.
My time up already?
No, no, no. We got disconnected, but we back on. Go ahead, finish what you were saying. I don't know what happened. Our producer ain't working tonight, but what happened? I mean, what were you saying?
Okay. I was just saying that there were two books
I'm
that
gonna
we
I'm,
had
I'm
to
gonna start your
read.
timer now. Go ahead. It's going. Go
There are two books that we had to read this past school year that my principal recommended for our
for the staff.
either our book club or
Mm.
or our professional literature study. And one of them is called "The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog." The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, and it's written by Bruce Perry. And the other one I recommend for you is called The Deepest Well by Nadine Burke. All right, so The Boy Who Was Raised by a Dog by Bruce Perry and The Deepest Well by Nadine Burke. Both of those books really kind of help to delve into how to help children who have been affected by great trauma.
Oh
And
wow.
as you probably can imagine, just by the names of the books, they are very useful and very, very good. So check those out.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna put them in the description. I was gonna write it down, but we're gonna put them in the description afterwards. Let's make sure you give me it.
I'll send it over in a moment. Yeah.
All right, cool. So Jeanette put some helpful resources in the comments for Tiffany, in case and it's for anyone really who may need these resources. So you guys can read that in your own leisure. It is on the screen now. If you need any of those resources, if you're experiencing any type of physical or sexual abuse or any type of abuse or resources, please make sure that you use those types of resources. Thank you, Jeanette. And so, Clarence, just to start to bring the conversation to a close, I wanted to be, I guess, more solution oriented for the second half of the support group and talking about ways to
Mm-hmm.
be, to handle that fatigue. And the first recommendation that comes from a publication that is in the description now on compassion fatigue is to rest. And you talked about, getting your sleep schedule right, and sleep really has to be a priority in your life if you
Mm-hmm.
struggle with mental health. I mean, it has to be a priority, period. And really, we all struggle with mental health because we all go through peaks and valleys of life. So, really, it applies to
Yeah.
everyone. Sleep is paramount. You really have to know your sleep schedule for you. And here's why. Sleep is like, for some people really like to eat. They like to go out and eat. Like to me, I just eat to survive. But some people really enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
act of eating,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if they do it too much, they're going to have negative consequences. In the same like, some people really like to sleep, and if you don't put that thing in perspective, it can hurt you more than it helps you to get too much of it or too little of it and push it here and there and not have it as a staple priority in your life. So what are some of the recommendations from the resources that you found?
Um, in many ways, I would stick by some of the things that we've been saying.
Yeah, we
Um,
said a couple
Stuff
of them as
like
we were going
reducing
on.
your work. Yeah, like reducing your workload, monitoring your sleep patterns, making sure you're getting enough rest. I'm always going to go back to journaling, seeking for personal therapy. We always say that. Exercise. Here's another one that I think helped for me and I think helped for you too. Go on a vacation if you can afford it. Don't break the budget. But
Yeah.
for many of you, the federal government is sending out a second stimulus package, and most of you have begun a part-time work schedule. Take some of that money that the government giving you, if you can, and spend it on going somewhere. Say thank you, Trump, for my vacation. For if you ain't give me nothing else, you gave me that. But then there's other things like when you're feeling low and all those kind of talk about your feelings, get sleep, pursue a hobby outside of work, something that will risk, will be a little more risky. Something like me would be dancing. I can't dance a lick, and so I would recommend that. And so just things that can pull you out of that rut almost immediately. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, man. I wanna, not embellish, but build on one of your examples, which was dancing. Um,
Mm,
and you don't have to dance, but here's why dancing is for Clarence because he said he can't dance a lick. Neither can I. It's a practice of mine as well. Just so you understand how it directly relates. We both take ourselves very seriously,
seriously, precisely.
and to be
On the dance
to
floor.
have compassion for yourself in an area where you're not good, you're not strong, you can't take yourself so seriously, you have to extend
Right.
grace and compassion, right? So knowing those little intricate things about you and saying, "Hey, I take this like really seriously. How can I show myself some love? Let's say love. Let's make it simple. How can I show myself some love, in this area?" Like the example with my to-do list. You may have,
Yeah.
something that you struggle with like that. You may feel like as a parent, or as a new parent that you aren't nailing everything that you may, and saying, how can I love myself right now after, I've acknowledged those thoughts. I've acknowledged that I feel those ways. How can I love myself right now, though, to make sure that I get past that? That's refiring that muscle. And you're not always going to want to do that. It's like working out. It's like you can know something is good for you, and it's just like there's a mental block that doesn't allow you to do it. That's the mental health piece that we're here to work on to make sure that you make those best decisions for yourself and give yourself that compassion and that love that you need. You go with that, client, before we go to the next.
Yeah. Go to the next. Yeah.
Amber said, maybe not related, but sometimes you hear a person saying same sad story so many times and give advice that you lose compassion. Like you can't force someone to want to make their life better and move on. So I think your solutions are good for self, but what about when trying to have compassion for someone else? Well, call me out on the platform, won't you, Amber? Clarence, you want to go? You want me to go?
Yeah.
Me?
No, yeah, you go because I want to. Yeah.
Okay, so Amber, I've said early on the live that this isn't my strong suit. I feel like you were asking me this because I've given all of the self compassion tips, and you're right. You're absolutely right, and I'm glad you asked the question. I don't have an answer
Thank you, Amber.
because I'm trying to learn it. Um, like I said, one practice I have is not taking a few breaths before I respond, and really that is me showing compassion. If you've ever, I don't know, Amber, if you ever experienced me or not, but some people say I'm really like, and I don't intend to be. It's really not. It really doesn't. It comes from a very loving and honest place, but the delivery is a little different. So it's compassion to me to say, let me make sure I don't put somebody through that. To say, well, you shouldn't have, you should accept, that it wasn't meant like that, and all that stuff. To have compassion, say, let me not make you feel that. I try to take a second and then reply. That's the best I have so far. Next week I have some more, solutions that I put in place for myself. But Clarence has them all because he's Pastor Jax. and he has to have
Home,
passion for others.
homework,
Homework
brother.
for you.
Homework for
Knock
you.
it out the park.
Go ahead.
Knock it out the park. Compassion
No,
for someone.
no. Compassion for someone else. It's probably one of the most difficult things to do
Mm,
because in order to have compassion for someone else, you actually have to think. You have to put your mind in their mind or put yourself completely in their shoes. You can't even for a moment think, well, if it were me.
right,
Nope.
right.
I'm thinking like you. And because I'm thinking like because and since he
Mm.
threw out the pastor thing, I wasn't gonna go here. Since he threw out the pastor thing, the greatest
Let
thing
me
that
start this
Jesus
time.
gave that you only I'm already
It's
going
just
there.
for the
Ready?
Jesus thing.
The greatest thing that Jesus, one of the greatest things that Jesus offered was compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And the forgiveness of sin is really just an advanced form of
Grand
compassion,
compassion, yeah.
where I'm saying, you know what, every single and people are saying, well, I don't sin. The Bible says that we sin every day by word, by thought, and by deed.
Mm.
And so if you didn't say it, you thought it, and if you didn't think it, you did it. And at some point, you know, and so here God is saying every day, all right, you good, you good. That's compassion. And what he's doing is saying, you know what, I love you so much that I choose to see it your way. I know you're wrong,
Mm.
you know, and so that's what I think about when people say compassion. Now, do I stand to work on my compassion? Heavens, yes. Oh, because I'm not a walk in the park. But I feel like I need to repent is what I need to do. But no, not like that. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I would say when it comes to being compassionate with others. Really just try to see it from the way they see it. You know you're not. You know you're not, but try. And I'm telling you, it'll make you say, all right, I guess you were right for making a U-turn on a busy road.
Oh, you ended on time, so I ain't have to put the buzzer on. Good job. So hopefully, Amber, those are good solutions for you to have compassion for other people, and those are good. Those are good solutions for me and good analogies too, because maybe I do show more compassion than I think I do. Um, and as you spoke, it illuminated some things for me. So maybe I can give myself some compassion, knowing that I show a little bit more compassion than I think I do. I'm putting skills to work already, man. It's already happening.
No, this still classwork. You still got homework, bro.
Let me know if you all are here. If you have any more comments, any more questions, just to let you all know, I'm not cutting my hair to my birthday, so that's why I look really crazy. Um, I am going through transition
Boy,
for the next few months,
boy,
so
here
you
you
guys
go.
are gonna have to deal with
Here
this
you
rough
go.
look for the next few months, and I'm gonna need some support because he's gonna try to crack on me, and I'm listen. I'm here to
I'm
support
chilling
y'all.
on you.
I'm here to support y'all.
I got homework to do. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. Since I need some compassion for my fatigue as it pertains to. I have to prepare a virtual video lesson classroom thing. Man, I don't know how to do this.
What do you mean?
I okay. So we have to do a lesson,
Mm.
right? On record it, sharing your screen with your voice in there, then you popping on the screen and
Hey y'all.
throwing right. Then you throwing questions in and opening the conversations and click this button to move on and
mm. Wow. Yeah, you need some compassion. Oh, that's what you were trying to set
I
up when we were having our
help.
meeting, and you were like, "I got to do 100 things."
Yes,
Mm.
yes. And then on top of that, I'm grossly behind on some paperwork. So I have 56 documents that on each document it's probably going to have at least 20 some lines, bro, and columns. that I gotta have done. And so I have been really, really, really smart, man. I really have. I haven't come up for air. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna go any further. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, it looks like our comments have died down and everybody's done with the conversation, so we can cut out here a little early. I will be on the road next week, but I will be here for M.I.A. My background just may look a little different, just in case anybody will be wondering about that. Thank you all for joining us. Please make sure you share this with someone if you're still here. I see a few people are still here. If if you enjoyed the conversation, you think it benefits anyone, please make sure to share it. Please make sure to like the video. Appreciate you guys commenting and joining us with us each week, every Wednesday at 7:30. Clarence, do you have any closing remarks before we finish the live?
No, just be more compassionate and get some more rest.
Rest and compassion.
God bless.
Peace, y'all.
I take care.